It seems that Nintendo is having a worse than expected holiday season. How much worse? Quite a lot worse, actually. Like, kind of way worse. And it sounds bad. And it is bad. It certainly is. Obviously, the holidays, they're supposed to be a really big deal. It's when a company like Nintendo expects to see their absolute best sales outside of like a console launch. And it's the Switch 2's first holiday season, so very, very high hopes going in. And then of course, like here in the US, November in particular is the absolute single biggest shopping month of the entire year. They will never move more units than they will in November. And yet, they did not move a lot of units in November. Okay, we cannot get too carried away here. There are predictably a lot of people just chomping at the bit to declare Switch 2 a huge failure and claim that all of this was inevitable. It was always going to happen. It's all Nintendo's fault. This is what they get. This is their comeuppance. But like, there really are a lot of factors to consider here. And this isn't me defending Nintendo. It is a fact that there are a lot of factors to consider here. Not the least of which being we are currently in a very, very serious cost of living crisis. And the worse this gets, the more these companies increase their prices because, you know, they don't want to make less money this year than they did last year. But then that hurts us multiple times over because now a game system, for example, is more expensive and our money is worth less. It is more precious. Many of us are basically fighting to survive here. And this is something I have been meaning to make a big video about for a while, and I definitely will, hopefully in early 2026, because it is a very, very big deal. We are already seeing very serious trends within the industry. We are seeing sales start to decline. Growth is kind of stalling. More and more and more people are just playing older games. And all of this is the absolute worst it has ever been right now. I mean, not to get political here, but we are currently watching the largest transfer of wealth from the poor and working class to the rich in US history in real time. And if that wasn't bad enough, AI is screwing everything up. I talk about this in plenty other videos going out around this time, so I won't go into the whole thing, but AI is causing humongous shortages. That's driving up prices even more. It is going to continue to drive up prices through 2026 and maybe beyond. So yeah, big ticket spending on luxury items is predictably down. This last November was actually the worst November for video game hardware sales in the US since 1995. Wow, 30 years! And that's in a year when Nintendo put out a new console, for Pete's sake. Apparently in the US, the industry only shifted 1.6 million units in November. Now, we don't have exact numbers for everything. We have little bits and pieces here and there. We can kind of paint a picture. I apologize if I'm misinterpreting any of this, but Sony and the PS5 took over 50% of the share of sales. And then next came Switch 2, and they only had about like half of that. And then after that came the NeX Playground. We've been talking about that recently, which was not too much lower than that. And we know that that thing shifted 300,000 units in November. So based on extremely, extremely rough estimates, that could potentially put the Switch 2, maybe even around like 500K. In the US for the entire month of November. And yeah, especially for a launch year, it's kind of disastrous. Like it really, I don't know. It's really not great. The Switch 2 had sold 10 million units by the end of September. That was the end of the fiscal quarter. And those early sales were so strong that Nintendo actually significantly raised their sales forecast for the entire first year of the Switch 2's life from 15 million to 19 million. That was how strong those early sales were. Some analysts were even predicting that most of those additional sales past 10 on the way to 19 would happen right now, would happen right here during this holiday season, which is really funny because you look at the greater picture and like economically, you're like, oh no, this does make sense. We probably should have seen this coming. But then it's like, okay, well then why didn't the analysts see it coming? Why isn't that their job? Why were they predicting that everything would be hunky-dory when, if you follow the tech industry, you can like see how AI is disrupting things and how that's probably going to cause shortages? I don't know. I haven't actually dug into everything every analyst has ever said, so don't take that too seriously. Basically, though, we don't have solid numbers, and we especially don't have solid numbers across the board in every region. Obviously, different regions are affected differently by all of this stuff. It's probably going to be a good month or so before we get official data from Nintendo, and we know for sure how the Switch 2's first holiday went. But at least at the moment, it's not looking great. We don't have any reason to believe that it has gone well. And yes, I really do believe the economic situation is largely to blame here. I don't believe the idea that Nintendo screwed up and everybody's seeing their greed and they're boycotting them or whatever. But I am open to the idea that it could have some part to play. Just that the state of Nintendo discourse has kind of soured the Nintendo playing experience, at least to a degree. I talk about all this in an upcoming video. I think it may potentially be at least one contributing factor. But even if it is a small factor, that's the thing. Multiple smaller factors all kind of compound. Everything contributing to the Switch 2's flagging sales, you know, it all adds together. I think in some ways it may even kind of multiply, but that's really, really speculative and a much bigger, like, psychological and economical thought experiment we probably shouldn't get into right now. Point is, there may be several reasons why the Switch 2 is not having a good holiday, and of course, we can never forget the fact that the Switch 2 is kind of safe, kind of boring, nothing super novel about it. That was always going to make the Switch 2 generation just a little bit more difficult for Nintendo. It was always gonna like raise the grade of the hill, at least to a degree. So you combine that with all of this other stuff, and it could be that, yes, the launch sales were very, very good. There was a really good percentage of those, 100+ million people who were just like, no matter what, I'm getting a Switch 2 right away the second it's available. Nintendo stocked the system really, really well, so all of those people just jumped at the chance. And now that that initial stock has largely been sold, now you're looking at a whole lot of other people who are just like, yeah, I'm gonna wait. I'm gonna wait. Maybe a good bit. Maybe they're not waiting at all. Maybe there are plenty of people who are just like, nah, I'm not interested. Switch was fun, but like, I don't need another one. At least not for like the foreseeable future. Again, I talk about it a little bit more in an upcoming video, but I am preparing for the potential reality that the Switch 2's sales were very front-loaded. We gotta wait and see. Absolutely nothing is certain yet, and obviously, like, these things can shift at the drop of a hat. Nintendo can sometimes just release just the right game, and that can help completely change a system's fortunes. But there is no doubt about it. Holiday performance like this is, chilling. So it's a little bit chilling.